First and foremost, what do you think about? I just find this so interesting. With the whole Michigan cheating scandal, how do you view the past 3 years?
Personally, I don't care about it. Michigan won. I feel like that's a lot of Ohio State fans trying to make themselves feel better for losing. Did it did it help them? Probably, but at the same time, stop somebody. Like Donovan Edwards ran wild on them 2 years ago. What's the running back? Couple years, like but the year before that,
Oh, Hassan Haskins, and also Blake Corum with a bum leg.
that's like, yeah, well, like I guess it'd be cool as an Ohio State fan. I want to come back to that, but we lost. I don't really care much about that cheating stuff. I even last year I felt like while Ryan Day didn't call a horrible game, I also felt like he was coaching not to win. Like Sharon Moore went for it every fourth down. I'm trying to win this game.
Yeah, exactly. Like fourth and short, convert. Fourth and short, convert. The first one was a fourth and goal. Um,
Right? Like they when he settled for the field goal before halftime, you that's a long field goal, especially at Michigan. Try to win this football game.
yeah, yeah, and I, it's so interesting because I don't think he just called an average game. I thought Ryan Day called a good game against Michigan, but I'm not going to end it there because I also think that last year's loss to Michigan in particular, the previous 2 seasons was a bad matchup. There were games where Michigan had this massive matchup advantage, this massive physical advantage that Ohio State just couldn't overcome. Even though and I mean literally, every power ranking system agrees that Ohio State like had the better team in 21 and 22. Michigan just had this massive matchup advantage in the trenches and I think called the better individual game. Now I think
Agreed.
that especially in 22, I think that Michigan, despite what the power rankings say, had a better team overall. But we'll never know that because they only play so many games, they play different opponents, and they only play each other once. They don't play each other in like a 7 game series like they do in the NBA playoffs. But last year, Ohio State has their head coach. They're unified. They're healthier than they were in 22 by a mile. I don't know if they were healthier than when they were in 21. They finally eliminated much of those matchup disadvantages with a better defense. And while they didn't have an elite ground game or even a great one, Michigan's run game wasn't as good either as it should have been and as it was in previous seasons. And yet Ohio State lost. And it was I think the snowball effect of Ryan Day in a certain sense overreacting to the previous 2 losses and not changing his staff soon enough and making some recruiting misses and also the strength and conditioning staff. Like all of that just snowballed, and by the time that Ryan Day called a good game and by the time that Ohio State played to their potential against a really good team, they fell short because Michigan, for the first time, I think, in I don't know how long, probably for the first time since like the 90s or the early 2000s, like pre Jim Tressel or the first years of Tressel, actually had a team that on paper, along with on the field, on paper was just better than Ohio State. Like they were the better team.
I think I think Michigan was the better team last year, but I don't really know. Like it was close.
Yeah.
I do think a couple of matchups. I think Eichenberg, Michigan found a a matchup to where they can exploit with Eichenberg and the tight ends. He was getting ate alive. Um, the line, I mean, even with that, Marvin Harrison was wide open. I mean, not wide open, but he was open on the play
Yes.
where Cal McCord threw the last pick. Who knows? Trust me, I was there and I still see. I saw the whole play develop. Just it'll never. I don't know. It hurt.
Oh yeah, and it was close, and it was close. It was close
But
because, to his credit and to the staff's credit, they made changes. They did the necessary things to better compete in the Big Ten and to try and beat Michigan. And that's probably what makes it more painful is they did what they needed to do, but it was too late, or Michigan just improved themselves and was able to match up well. I remember that
I
final
think
drive, like that you were talking about. I was scared. A part of me thought that they
I
were just
came
going to march down the field.
I came away from that game thinking if Ryan Day would have picked J.J. McCarthy over Cal McCord, Ohio State win the game. That's where the difference. I mean, J.J. McCarthy made a couple of plays in that game, whether he extending, throwing it across his body to Cornelius Johnson. He did just enough. And that's where the teams really matched up at. Like, if J.J. was the quarterback at Ohio State win the game. I truly believe that.
Yeah. If Ohio State last year is able to retain C.J. Stroud through NIL, they probably win it all. Like, despite having that O-line look that way and the run game that they had. I mean, they came that close, and they were better than what anyone's going to remember them as because of that Missouri game. But that Missouri game truly wasn't that team. Just like
I don't even
how,
think that.
yeah, I mean, don't you think? Like, losing
Yeah,
all
that
they
game,
lost?
the Missouri game, I don't think no. I think we wanted to win, but like once you lose your starting quarterback, what third series of the game, anybody that is not trying to troll will understand.
I can see that. Like like I thought that game was disappointing because Ohio State has such a talent advantage that they had no business losing that game. But that's also like you can also say at the same time that they weren't as good in the Missouri game as they were on average in the regular season due to roster changes. What do you think of
Yeah,
this year's Michigan Ohio State game? Walk me through what you think the key matchup will be, how you think the game will go. And I know you're picking Ohio State to win, but how do you think Michigan can find a way to win this game?
I think make it an ugly game. Make Ohio State start getting tight. Maybe some of the last 3 years start creeping in their mind. That's how Michigan wins. I think the longer you draw, like make it a ugly 7-0, 10-7 type game. Doubt creeps into Ohio State, creeps into Ryan Day's head. Like maybe we are soft. Maybe I mean I don't want to never call a football player soft, so let me not do that. But some of those whispers start getting loud. I'm not sure. Like I think if Ohio State can find a way to jump on them early, I think they can. It'll be good. But the tougher the game is, the more I can see people making mistakes. They short arming catches that they usually make. You know, linemen not doing what they're supposed to do because they worried about, oh man, here we go again. It's kind of like in March Madness when you got the underdog and they say like if you don't get rid of them early, the longer the game is in question, the more doubt creeps in. I feel like that's how Michigan wins. The longer the game is in question, the longer the game you hitting them, making it an ugly game, the more Ohio State going to be, oh man, they're going to be in their head.
I think that's a genius analogy. And I obviously have no clue what Michigan will look like this year. It's the same with, like, well, some clue, but you can only get so far with guessing a team from the preseason. But I do think in Michigan's most likely way of like going 12-0 again is they get in a bunch of close games with teams that they're more physical than, and they just win all those games. Like kind of in the way that
Agreed.
TCU did in 2022, or like what you talked about, like a Cinderella team, or maybe a team that isn't seated high but they have talent and they keep pulling off upsets, like what UNC did in Hubert Davis's first year.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think if Michigan makes it an ugly game, not just they have a good chance to win, but they'll if Michigan is to if this game is going to be ugly, I see Michigan most likely winning. But by ugly I mean super low scoring. I think if it's close, but it's like a shootout or there's enough back and forth, I think that Ohio State having more accuracy at quarterback, a deeper running back room, a better receivers. When you start having a close game that's higher scoring, you need how do I say this? Like you need the X factor players. If it's
Agreed.
this low scoring affair and it's ugly, well that just it's not that it doesn't matter, but the X factor player hasn't emerged all game. It's not like he's going to emerge now because it's a game full of mistakes. It's like Alabama and Auburn in the Iron Bowl last year. The 4th and 30 was converted not just because Jalen Milroe and Isaiah Bond were great, but because Auburn made a horrendous mistake. Well, they were making horrific mistakes all game. That was
Agreed.
a snoozer. I think that Ohio State wins this game, though, and I've had a habit of picking Ohio State to win in the game when they shouldn't have. I picked them to win in 21 and 22, and Michigan did. Uh, I picked Michigan to win last year every time, like preseason, early regular season, and then by the time the game came around. And I see that even though I think Michigan is still the more physical team, Ohio State's physical. They're physical like they were physical last year, more physical than in 21 and 22. Just more the attitude, the defense, and I think the ground game. I mean, they have their best running back room that they've ever had under Ryan Day, because Judkins and Henderson combined are that talented, and they complement each other well. Henderson is pure speed and space, but he is not a person who breaks tackles. Judkins led the nation in broken tackles last year. I mean, that is the perfect duo. And I think, like
Agreed.
what you said, Ohio State just with better talent, home field advantage, and really wanting revenge and having more experience, everything outside of the overall trenches, everything goes Ohio State's way. And Ohio State is a much bigger matchup in perimeter and skill play against Michigan than Michigan does against Ohio State in trench play.
I completely agree.
What do you think the scoring range in this game will be? Like the total?
Uh, I think I give it like this: if Michigan gonna win 24 and under, if Ohio State's gonna win about 28 and over.
Ah, okay. So, like, just to get this clear, it's basically saying that like Michigan is the winner scores 24 less points than it would be Michigan. If it's 28 or more, it's Ohio State. Or is that just
Yeah.
like the total points?
If the winner, like you just said, if the winner scores 28 or more, it'll be Ohio State winning.
Okay, that makes sense. I don't think Michigan's offense is going to be much higher than mid 30s in average points scored per game. Like this will probably be Michigan's worst offense since dare I say even like 2020. Like maybe it's better than the 2021 unit, but the 2021 unit actually had weapons at receiver, and they'll probably have a better O-line than they did this year. And probably a better passing QB, too. I mean, I think Orgy has a higher upside than McNamara, but he's probably going to be more turnover prone, maybe more inaccurate. We'll see.
Okay.
Well, we've talked for an hour and 10 minutes about Michigan, Ohio State, which I think is incredible. These are Michigan's my favorite team. Ohio State, I'm a weird Michigan fan. Ohio State is actually one of my more favored teams as well because I like good teams and I like good product. And Ohio State is not just good, but they're great. They're near elite. They're elite. Thank you so much for watching this episode of College Football with Sam. I appreciate it. And I would appreciate it even more if you were to hit that like button, comment your thoughts on this video down below, hit that big red subscribe button, and also click that notification bell so that your phone, laptop, or whatever device you use can ding or buzz whenever I release new content and notify you about it so that you can watch more videos like this. College Football with Sam is the best Big Ten football channel on YouTube. We're going to be doing a giveaway when we hit 20,000 subscribers, and we're trying to become one of the best, if not the best, college football channels on YouTube. Your support means so much, and to those of you who are subscribed to my Patreon or purchase merchandise from my store, the links to those are down in the description and pinned comment. Thank you so much. I want to give a shout out to my Patreons. Thanks to Crash2488 for being a Heisman member. Thanks to Spencer Bringhurst, Chris Lane, and Connor Little OH for being All-American members. And thanks to Will Loftus, John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Sale, Austin Christmas, and Janisha Cockrell for being All-Conference members. Have a great day, guys. And if you're listening on Spotify or any non-YouTube podcast platform, please check the link in the channel description to find my YouTube channel. And if you're listening on YouTube, feel free to check out my Spotify, if you so please. Have a great day, guys, and I will see you all soon. Bye-bye.